Hey guys, and welcome to my world building vlog. My name is Erin and I'm a writer. I'm working on several fantasy pieces, so I thought I would go through and do a vlog series about world building, just on some of the things that I've had to figure out while I'm creating my fantasy worlds. So today's topic is going to be the basics of medicine. This is going to be a 3-part series, and next week will be sex and reproduction, and the week after that will be mental health and disabilities in fantasy. In the course of any story, injury and illness does happen just like life, so when those things happen, how are your characters going to deal with it? You're going to want to consider the different levels of medical care that are going to be available throughout the story. Chances are, if they're in a city, if they're wealthier, they're going to have access to more comprehensive medical care. If they're on a journey of some variety, then they may only have access to basic first aid in the field. You don't have to go into a ton of detail, but you should be aware as to what's accessible to your characters during different points in the story if injury and illness does happen. Magical healing will also not be covered in this one because we're going to do that in a separate one when I go over all the different pieces of magic, not within the medicine comprehensive. When you're figuring out medicine, you do want to have some limits, because if something happens to your characters and everything is able to be insta-cured, then there's not going to be a whole lot of tension. No one's going to worry about your characters if you can just automatically fix exactly what's wrong with them right when it happens. If you want to make your readers sweat, then when something happens to your characters, make medical care be inaccessible to them. Make it seem like something terrible could happen to them, or something terrible does happen to them, and they're not able to get the help they need for it. If you want to create tension with a low-level injury or illness, then you can simply cut them off from the basic medical care. If they're on a journey, if they're in a poor area, if they're just in an isolated area, then they're not going to have access to the same resources that they would in other situations. Also with medicine, you want to figure out who is doing the medical work in your world. In a lot of cultures and histories and societies, medical care is divided along very specific roles. Why? Obviously, you can mix this up. There's no need to stick with historical norms in any of this. Are certain types of healing considered more valid than others? This is where you get into kind of the conflicts of like Western versus Eastern medicine, herbal and homeopathy versus modern medicine, all that sort of deal. Any kind of conflicts where one type of medicine or healing is viewed above others within a specific society. Another thing to consider is how accessible is medical care to the population at large. Is it something that everyone can have access to, or is it only available to specific groups? Do the healers specialize, or are they sort of a jack of all trades? Can you go to like a general practitioner, or do you need to go to a physician or healer who specializes in the exact thing that you're suffering from? Is the general population taught basic healing? Simple things like first aid, what to do for a cough and cold, that sort of deal. Does the general population have access to that knowledge, or is medical knowledge carefully hoarded by healers or the institutions surrounding them? Once you kind of figure out who's able to practice what, figure out how are they taught. Is medicine taught at educational institutions? Do they learn by doing under an internship or shadowing? What sort of training do these people receive that makes them able to perform medical treatment? Within fantasy, probably the most common you're going to see is a herbal healer, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Herbal healing is really cool and has a very long and interesting history. You can add a lot of authenticity to this by doing your research. Get to know the differences between teas, elixirs, tinctures, all that sort of thing. Based on the climate and geography that you've developed, get to know herbal lore from areas that are similar. You can create an entirely new fantasy herbal lore if you want, which can be a lot of work, or you can base it off of ones that are already existing. Usually what's easiest to do in that case is to have a base in something that already exists and have a few other options that are completely fantasy-based that do whatever purpose you need them to do. You can also consider disease as a plot point. I've seen quite a few ones where plagues create a lot of tension and obstacles for their characters. Plagues can collapse societies and bring just a whole new level of conflict to your world. If you need to really shake things up or kill off some high-ranking characters without having other characters do the dirty work, send in a plague. This way you can create a power vacuum and create a whole new political situation all without turning anyone into a murderer. So that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope that's helpful in getting the bare bones of your medical system organized for your fantasy world. Next week we'll be covering some more fun medical topics. So I will put all of my links to social media in the descriptions. Feel free to hit me up with any questions. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye!